The night the fire started, the entire village of Umuaka woke up to screams. It was the kind of scream that could wake the dead. A scream so full of terror that people jumped out of their beds before they even knew what was happening.
We need more water.
Fire!
Hurry!
Fire! Someone shouted in the distance. Within seconds, doors flew open across the village. Men grabbed buckets of water, women held their children close, and people ran toward the edge of the village where thick black smoke was rising into the night sky.
Help us, please help us.
A small wooden house was burning violently. Flames climbed the walls like hungry beasts, devouring everything in their path. Inside the house, a woman was screaming. "Please! Help me! Somebody help me!" Her voice cracked with desperation. Villagers tried to rush forward, but the heat was too intense. The fire had already spread across the roof. "No one can go inside," one man shouted.
Fire! Help us!
"We need more
Bring the
water."
Hurry up!
But even as they shouted, everyone knew the truth. It was already too late. Inside the flames was a young woman named Ngozi. And she was trapped. Outside the burning house, a man stood among the villagers. He watched silently as the fire consumed the home. His name was Chinedu, Ngozi's husband. Someone turned to him and shouted, "Your wife is inside." But Chinedu didn't move. He just stared at the flames. Then suddenly the roof collapsed with a loud crash. The screaming stopped. And just like that, Ngozi was gone. The villagers believed it was a terrible accident. A tragedy that no one could prevent. But there was one person in that crowd who knew the truth. The man who started the fire. 20 years later. Time has a strange way of covering the past. Years passed, and the tragedy slowly faded into memory. The burnt house remained empty at the edge of the village, slowly falling apart as nature reclaimed it. Children grew up hearing the story of the terrible fire. But eventually, even they stopped talking about it. Life continued. 20 years later, far away in the city of Enugu, a young woman named Amara began experiencing something strange. It started with dreams. At first they were short and confusing. A dark room. Smoke filling the air. The crackling sound of fire. But soon the dreams became clearer. Amara saw herself inside a wooden house. Flames crawled along the walls, spreading quickly. Smoke filled her lungs as she ran toward the door. She pulled the handle desperately. But it wouldn't open. She pounded on the door, screaming for help. "Please! Somebody help me!" Her voice echoed through the burning house. But no one came. And just before the flames reached her, Amara woke up screaming. Her heart racing wildly. Her entire body shaking. At first she thought it was just a nightmare. But the dreams kept coming back. Night after night. And every time they became more detailed. More real. More terrifying. The dreams become memories. Soon Amara began noticing something strange. The dreams didn't feel like dreams anymore. They felt like memories. She could smell the smoke. Feel the heat of the flames. Hear the wooden beams cracking above her head. One night the dream changed slightly. As she banged on the door, she suddenly noticed something. A shadow moving outside the house. Someone was standing there. Watching. The figure didn't try to open the door. Instead, the person slowly stepped closer to the window. For a moment, the fire lit up the face. A man. Cold. Emotionless. Watching her burn. Amara woke up instantly, gasping for breath. Her heart pounded violently against her chest. She couldn't understand why this dream felt so real. Why it felt like something she had actually experienced. Then something even stranger happened. The next morning, without thinking, Amara grabbed a pencil and paper. Her hands moved quickly across the page. When she finally stopped, she stared down at the drawing in shock. She had drawn the house from her dream. Every detail was there. The windows, the wooden pillars, even a large mango tree beside the house. But the most disturbing part was this. Amara had never seen this house before. At least, that's what she believed, the whisper in the dreams. The dreams refused to stop. Instead, they became even stronger. Some nights Amara would wake up in the middle of the night, sweating and trembling. Other nights she would sit up in bed, hearing something strange echoing in her mind. A voice. At first it was faint. Barely noticeable. But slowly it became clearer. One word kept repeating. Over and over again. Umuaka. Amara didn't know what the word meant. She had never heard it before. Yet the voice kept whispering it through the flames. Umuaka. 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 For days she tried to ignore it. She convinced herself it was just her imagination. But the whisper never stopped. Finally, curiosity began to replace fear. One evening, Amara sat down with her phone and searched the strange word on the internet. Within seconds, the result appeared. Umuaka. A small village located several hours away from Enugu. Amara felt a sudden chill. Why would she dream about a place she had never visited? The question stayed in her mind for days. Until one weekend. She made a decision. The journey to the unknown. Early on Saturday morning, Amara packed a small bag. She placed the drawing of the mysterious house inside. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Even she wasn't sure why she was going. But something deep inside her mind kept pulling her toward that village. Umuaka. The bus ride took several hours. As the city disappeared behind her, the roads became smaller and quieter. Fields stretched across the land. Palm trees swayed gently in the wind. Then finally the bus driver announced their destination. Umuaka. Last stop. Amara stepped down from the bus slowly. The moment her feet touched the dusty road, something strange happened. Her chest tightened. A wave of familiarity washed over her. It felt like she had been here before. But that was impossible. She began walking through the village slowly. Villagers glanced at her curiously as she passed. Every step made her heart beat faster. Then suddenly, she stopped walking. Because right in front of her was the house from her dreams. The house from the fire. The house stood at the edge of the village. Old. Silent. Almost forgotten. The wooden walls were faded and damaged by time. The roof was partially broken. But it was unmistakably the same house she had drawn. The same windows. The same doorway. Even the same mango tree standing beside it. Amara felt her legs grow weak. This can't be real, she whispered. Her hands trembled as she pulled the drawing from her bag. She held it up beside the house. It was identical. A few villagers nearby noticed her standing there. One elderly woman slowly walked toward her. "My daughter," the woman said kindly, "are you looking for someone?" Amara hesitated before showing her the drawing. I drew this house," she explained. The old woman looked at the drawing. Then at the house. Then back at Amara's face. Her expression suddenly changed. Her eyes widened in shock. "Where did you get this?" she asked quietly. "I told you. I drew it." The old woman stared at her carefully. Then she whispered something that made the air feel cold. "You look exactly like her." Amara frowned. "Like who?" The old woman swallowed nervously. "Ngozi." Within minutes, several villagers gathered around the old house. Word spread quickly in a small village, and soon everyone wanted to see the strange young woman who had appeared out of nowhere. The elderly woman introduced herself as Mama Ifeoma. She looked at Amara with a mixture of curiosity and fear. My daughter, she said slowly, this house once belonged to a woman named Ngozi. Amara listened carefully. She died here 20 years ago in a terrible fire. The villagers around them nodded sadly. Amara felt her stomach tighten. Fire. Just like in her dreams. Mama Ifeoma continued speaking. Everyone said it was an accident, she explained. But some of us never believed that story. Amara leaned forward slightly. What do you mean? The old woman lowered her voice. Ngozi was trapped inside the house. The door was locked from outside. Amara's heart skipped a beat. Locked. Just like the dream. Mama Ifeoma continued. Her husband was the only person outside when the fire started. And after her death, he inherited everything. The villagers exchanged uncomfortable glances. No one needed to say his name. Everyone already knew it. Chinedu. The memories return. Amara decided to stay in the village for a few days. The more time she spent near the old house, the stranger things became. It started with small details. One afternoon, she walked inside the abandoned building. The villagers followed her cautiously. Amara stopped suddenly in the middle of the room. This is where the kitchen used to be, she said. The villagers looked confused. But when they examined the floor carefully, they realized she was right. Another day, Amara walked straight to one corner of the wall. Without hesitation, she pushed against a loose wooden panel. The wood moved slightly, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were old photographs and personal belongings. Mama Ifeoma gasped in shock. That hiding place, only Ngozi knew about it. The villagers began whispering among themselves. Could it really be possible? Had Ngozi somehow returned? The man who avoided the truth. There was only one person in the village who refused to come near the house. Chinedu. After Ngozi's death, he had inherited all her land and money. Over the years, he built the largest house in the village. He lived comfortably while everyone else struggled. But when he began hearing rumors about a strange young woman who knew secrets about Ngozi's house, he became very nervous. One evening, villagers gathered in the square to discuss what was happening. This girl knows too much, one man said. It cannot be coincidence, another replied. Finally someone suggested something bold. We should bring Chinedu here. The crowd agreed immediately. If Amara truly knew what happened that night, then there was only one person who could confirm it. The man who survived the fire. The entire village gathered in the square the next afternoon. People stood in groups, whispering nervously. Everyone wanted to witness what might happen. Chinedu arrived slowly. He looked irritated at first. But the moment his eyes landed on Amara, his expression changed instantly. The color drained from his face. Because Amara looked frighteningly similar to Ngozi. Not exactly the same. But the resemblance was enough to make his hands tremble. Amara stepped forward calmly. The entire crowd became silent. Then she spoke. You locked the door. The villagers gasped. Chinedu's eyes widened in fear. Amara continued. You poured kerosene around the house. You stood outside and watched the fire burn. Chinedu staggered backward slightly. How do you know that? He whispered. Amara looked directly into his eyes. Her voice became cold. Because I was there. The truth finally breaks. The tension in the village square was unbearable. Everyone watched Chinedu carefully. Sweat rolled down his face. No, this is impossible, he stuttered. But Amara stepped closer. There was something you didn't know, she said quietly. There was a small hole in the wall near the door. I saw your face through the flames. Chinedu's breathing became heavy. The villagers stared at him. Then suddenly, he broke. I didn't mean to kill her, he shouted. Gasps erupted from the crowd. I only wanted the money, he cried desperately. I thought if she died, everything would belong to me. The villagers exploded with anger. For 20 years he had lied. For 20 years he had pretended to be innocent. And now the truth was finally exposed. Justice after 20 years. The authorities were called immediately. Chinedu was arrested that very day. As he was taken away, the villagers watched silently. Some felt anger. Others felt relief. But one thing was certain. Ngozi had finally received justice. Even if it took 20 years. Yet one question still remained. Who was Amara? The final goodbye. The next morning, Amara prepared to leave the village. Mama Ifeoma walked her to the road. The old woman studied her face carefully. My daughter, she said softly. Tell me the truth. Amara waited. Are you really Ngozi? Amara paused for a long moment. Then she smiled slightly. Some truths, she said quietly, never die. Moments later, the bus arrived. Amara stepped inside and disappeared down the dusty road, leaving the village behind. And leaving one mystery that would never be fully answered. Did Ngozi truly return from the dead? Or did the past simply refuse to stay buried? End screen CTA. If you enjoyed this story of mystery and justice, tell me in the comments. Do you believe reincarnation is real? And if you haven't already, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories like this. Because the next story might be even more unbelievable. Fire.